From the NewsChannel 5 Network and Out and About newspaper, this is Out and About Today. Sponsored by the Tennessee Performing Arts Center.
Well, hello, and I'm Chuck Long, and welcome to Out and About Today. On the show tonight, Brent gives us a special sneak peek of the upcoming Nashville Fashion Week with Marcia Masula, managing partner and co-founder. But first, we start the show with a much buzzed about hot topic: faith in the LGBTQ community. It's a topic constantly in the headlines, most recently as the United Methodist and Catholic churches struggle with the issue with potentially serious and harmful effects on and to the LGBTQ community. Joining me for this discussion, Reverend Dr. Bryce Thomas of Holy Trinity Community Church in Nashville and Jennifer Strickland. We are so glad both of you guys are here. So, it's a big topic, and we're going to get into a project that you both started that I'm really excited about, recovering from religious trauma. So we're going to be talking about that and how you kind of joined together. But first, let's take a big, broad look at this. And Bryce, I know you're pastor of Holy Trinity Community Church, an incredible church here in Nashville. 80% about of the population of that church, predominantly gay. So you minister to a huge population of faith-based folks that go to Holy Trinity. So what is the biggest challenge that you see when people come to Holy Trinity and kind of ministering to them?
All right, great. Thanks, Chuck, and it's great to be here and to see you and to talk about spirituality in the LGBTQ community. I first want to say how important the role of religion has played in providing a space for spiritual journey and for discerning deeper relationship with God. But it is complex for the LGBTQ community. And the reality is that a lot of the non-affirming non-LGBT affirming churches have become one of the largest stressors, I think, facing our community. And they actually can exacerbate the experiences of gay people as we're dealing with our own stressors in life. And so the tendency is to isolate ourselves from communities of faith because of the fear of being marginalized and disenfranchised. And
what are some of the harmful effects that you've seen even in your own congregation?
Right, absolutely. For me, it's very similar to PTSD type symptoms. We find stressors that affect LGBT folks, and that can exert itself in ways like anxiety, self-doubt, the problem with social inadequacy, but mostly it's about shame. It's the shaming of our identity, and it's the experience of shame that can lead to things like judgment, can lead to alienation, isolation, low self-esteem, depression, suicide, even. The idea that shame is a way of controlling people, and ultimately it's a way of eliminating the other from the community.
Right. Now, recently you were featured in a New York Times article, and that article, very powerful article, was called "Recovering from Religious Trauma." I mentioned at the top of the show that you guys have started, this project, Recovering from Religious Trauma. Actually, the article was "When Religion Leads to Trauma." Jen, you and Bryce got together to start this project. So first off, kind of tell me how that came to be.
Yeah, so we actually met about 6 months ago, and we're both really passionate about serving and ministering to the LGBTQ community. And then this idea of religious trauma came up. And we both have had experiences with that, myself personally and professionally, with a lot of the clients that I see in my practice. And we had talked about how can we meet this need in the community, and how do we educate people in the community that this is a real type of trauma from religion. And then, of course, what recovery could potentially look like. So we started talking about getting a curriculum together, exploring some resources, and then how to share that with the community, starting with Bryce's church.
Yeah.
Well, and I know, Bryce, and I love Holy Trinity, and I know myself, you know people that have gone to, and I think all three of us can relate to religious trauma. I've got a strong faith in my own life, but you're always fighting against it sometimes when people are questioning and making you feel less than or other or guilt or shame. And you were talking about the guilt and shame kind of thing.
Sure.
What do you say to people in your church who are coming saying, you know what, the church has chased me away so many times, I'm not coming back? What do you tell them?
Yeah, and this conversation is just at the front of the news, as you had mentioned, with the United Methodist Church and the issues affecting them today. And the tendency, like I'd mentioned earlier, is to isolate oneself. But actually, the good news is that there are affirming communities, religious communities, faith communities, spirituality that does affirms the identity of the LGBTQ person. And there are communities who are coming together, particularly in light of these denominational conflicts, that are supporting each other. I attended recently a clergy meeting of United Methodist pastors who were broken and saddened by what's happened. And my conversation with them was, we need you. We need your churches. We need each other. And it doesn't matter what denomination, whether you're United Church of Christ or United Methodist, that we all are part of the same God and that we have the opportunity to do the same healing within each other and for each other.
And Jen, what's your hope for the Recovering from Religious Trauma project? What do you see the best case scenario for it being?
Yeah, I think awareness, obviously, of that trauma, awareness of potentially shame as a result of trauma from religious organizations, people in religion, and then healing and hope to restore that. And you know, one thing that I've thought about, we've talked about, can you have healing, especially experiencing trauma at a church? Can it take place at another church? Our tendency with anything problematic is to avoid triggers. And so we tend to isolate and avoid places where we've been hurt before. So creating a safe space at an affirming church, and then being able to validate and share stories and move on toward healing.
And to also confront seriously the weaponization of Scripture against the LGBTQ community, to think seriously about the ramifications of using that kind of the Bible as a weapon, right? Absolutely. Because the evangelical conservative church will be held accountable for what they've done, right? And they are experiencing it now with the decrease in membership and the growing affiliation of nuns, right? The NONES, that's the fastest growing religious affiliation in the United States right now. People are leaving the church.
And I hate to cut this off, but again, we could talk about this for the entire show, so we'll definitely kind of keep, you know, updating, talking, and we'll bring you back and kind of find out where we are, you know, after a few months on this. So how can people get a hold of you guys if they want to know more about this project?
Sure. Go to htccnashville.com, our website. You can get in contact with me there. And Jen has her own website.
It's jenstricklandcounseling.com.
Okay, and we'll make sure that we put that on our side as well, so they can get in touch. Okay. Great having you guys here. This is such a great thing that you were doing. So like I said, keep us updated.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
All right. Stay tuned. Brent is back with a preview of Nashville Fashion Week. You're watching Out and About Today.